the relations, we already had force of effort and the speeds. So we already had force of effort. This side is system implied. In here, effort given is source of effort. That's it. It's independent of whatever is flow. We have source of flow, bound as two power variables. This gives flow. Value is source of flow, independent of the value of effort. We have I. In this, we have a relation. Flow is some function. Let's call it function of type I of integral of effort. That is nonlinear case or general case or linear case. We have so each 1 by m integral E E T. We also have C element E and F. Here effort is function, some function of C type, let's say, is integration of flow dt. Or linear case, we have effort equal to some stiffness times integration of flow dt. Likewise, we have resistive type coupling. In this, there is no integration involved. That means you can write E is some function of R type directly of F, or F is inverse of that particular function of effort. So that is the difference. In I and C elements, one kind of integration is involved. So to either have flow as a function of the integral of effort, that is momentum, or in C element, you have effort as a function of integral of flow, that is generalized displacement. Whereas in R element, there is no integration, no derivative. Time doesn't come into picture. At any point of time, effort and flow are simply algebraically related. Time is independent of time. So that's what is R element. This might be linear, might be non-linear. This function IR might be invertible, might not be invertible. We will check some cases. Okay. All right. So examples of this R element. Simple damper. Here E is whatever damping parameter times F. That's what is known. That is force is RH dot. You have simple resistance. E is RF, same as E is equal to IR. You have other linear things like you have torsional damper, torsion damper, in this also, E is RF, where we write torque is some torsional resistance times speed. You get this kind of damper in door closures. Okay, wherever you have door closure, you have a spring as well as a damper. So these are all kinds of linear dampers. You may also get nonlinear dampers. For example, let's take a valve, or let's say friction.
सेंसिटिविटी थी भाई कौन ये भाई तेरे एक्टिविटी रहती है ओह माय गॉड तो ये
Ayush, 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 mute all the other members. From,
आलू का
yes.
सब्जी लाने का गोले गोले रहते भाई खिड़की फूट गई तेरे भाई बोलते था गोले बोले
Hello guys.
Ayush, please mute all the other members.
I have muted them.
इतना खत्म हुआ भाई ओके बैठ के पूरा खाया आगे बोला तू खत्म करेगा
Ayush, mute again.
Hello guys, please keep your microphone muted. I will check whose microphone is on. Okay, just report that to me. I will then remove them from the meeting. All right.
I think Pratik Sahil.
I note down his name. Fine. Okay. R element. This is a nonlinear element where we know force can be written as UK times thermal reaction if x dot is not equal to 0, x dot is velocity, and if magnitude of f it is equal to minus f if all are of course minus f magnitude of f is less than USN and x dot is equal to 0. Okay, so that's a nonlinear expression. Here you see again effort is not directly function of x dot. It's not direct function of x dot, but x dot acts as a switch. That means whether it will be minus mu k n or minus f, that is decided by the value of x dot. So it's just a switch. All right. So again here, you cannot write in direct terms. We will write E is equal to some phi r of f. So like that, like this friction, we can go to other domains. Let's say you have hydraulic domain. Let's say you have a valve. some kind of flow is taking place. Let's say it's incompressible flow. So some kind of a valve is there. Then, if the pressure here is P1, and other side pressure is P2, then we know P dot is a function of delta P. So let's call it CD A square root delta P by rho, and all these parameters being constant, we can take them as some effective CD effective square root of delta P. So what we have, rho is a nonlinear function of effort. Here, effort is delta P and flow is E dot. So that's a nonlinear relation. You can of course write this relation by inverting this. You can write instead flow, that is the effort, equal to rho square by dP effective. So this is invertible. So this is some kind of an invertible relation. We can put the damper like that. But sometimes these relations are not invertible. Let us say some kind of a, let's say some kind of a tri-journal bearing. That means a journal bearing in which lubrication is poor. Example, if somebody has got chance to see bullock cart, horse-drawn carriage, etc. So if you have such kind of a bearing and the lubrication is poor, you get the force velocity diagram like this. Here is x dot, here is FD, this is damping force. So in this case, because we are talking of a rotational thing, we will say or omega, and this side or torque. So damping torque versus omega. This picture is very interesting. It comes somewhat like this. So if it is a picture like this, we know that resistance, linear resistance, is del FD by del X dot, and resistance to rotation in rotational domain is del torque by del omega. So this slope of this curve decides what is the kind of damping. So up to this, R is less than 0. Above this, R is greater than 0. So this is a nonlinear relation, but with a problem. What is the problem? Problem is, for given say omega, there is one torque, but or given torque, there are two omega values. So what happens is you can write this relation in one way. So what you can do is we can write effort as some function, let's say, flow, but flow cannot be written as T because the function is multiplied or multi-valued or discontinuous system. So in these cases, the relation can be written only in one way, not the opposite. So a journal bearing is an example of this system, and this negative damping is very important. What does this negative damping do? It creates chatter. So R less than 0, chatter and noise at low speed. So this kind of Bullock carts, when lubrication is poor, you will find very screechy noise, and it's very high pitch, high frequency noise that is created because of this negative resistance. You also see this kind of noise and chatter if you are doing some kind of a turning operation at low speed. If speed is low, then this two chatter will take place and you will get noise. So in all these cases, damping becomes negative. And again, when you increase the speed at certain point onwards, positive damping comes. So you can extend these resistances to other domains. Yes, somebody wants to speak something?
Sir,
Yes,
sir, is this lecture being recorded?
could be. Could be.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So we have resistance in bearings, we have resistance due to friction, we have normal electrical resistance, normal mechanical dampers, and so on. You also have resistance in, let's say, thermal interface. You have a thermal interface. Let's say temperature is T, let's call it T1. This side temperature is T2. Some heat flow, call it Q, maybe dot, and let lambda the overall heat transfer coefficient. That means includes A, material properties, area, thickness, whatever are there. So that you can write Q dot as lambda times T1 minus T2. Note that effort is T or delta T. Both are effort variables. But
Sir,
yes,
sir, in the previous case, yet for the valve, we had taken effort is equal to F square by some constant.
Yes.
So it can be. It is not always the one function. So how is it invertible? I mean, it has two branches like an upward parabola.
Which one?
Sir, effort is equal to f square.
Oh, that has a sine function. Okay, if I do, I can put a signum function there. All right. Okay. Flow always takes place according to the value of the effort. All right. So means if the means bifurcation takes place at zero line,
Huh.
then we already know it. We can shift it and write it like that. All
Okay,
right.
sir.
The signum function. Okay. So here effort is temperature or temperature difference, but flow incidentally is not Q dot. Okay. If we write flow is equal to Q dot, if F is equal to Q dot, then E dot F is not power. So flow is basically entropy flow rate. S dot. So that is what we require. So flow has to be entropy flow rate. So if it were Q dot, our model would have been very easy. But unfortunately, it is S dot. So whether Q dot is same here and here, like a pipe flow, but if you take, let's say this side S1 dot and this side S2 dot, these two are unequal. Because S1 dot is basically dot by T1 and S2 dot is Q dot by T2. One is plus, one is minus, of course. If you look at from the point of view of the interface. All right? Okay. So you have some S1 dot, some S2 dot. And these two are unequal. All right? In magnitude. And this is very basic. We very well know that if this is entropy of the system, then entropy of the universe will be entropy change of the universe will be S1 dot minus that is plus actually. S2 dot is already taken as minus S2 dot. And this must be greater than 0. So we write this relation S1 dot and S2 dot. So that is, I will write that in a matrix form. So what we have, S1 dot, S2 dot, as a matrix, lambda is a constant parameter. Write as function of T1 and T2. So what we have S1 dot Q dot by T1. So I have T1, so T1 is there. So 1 by T1 minus T2, so minus 1 by T1. What does it mean? 1 is T1, 1 into T1 minus 1 into T2, that is T1 minus T2, whole thing divided by T1. And here I have S2 dot is minus, so I have minus 1 by T2, which will be 1 by T2. So that kind of a matrix I get. And this matrix is very interesting. You can see this matrix, including that lambda, of course, including that lambda. This we call, let's say, some matrix R. Some matrix R. Then we have flow as a vector is, let's call this R inverse or whatever, 1 by R inverse. Some kind of R inverse. So that is R inverse matrix times effort as a matrix. But E bar is R, F bar, this R does not exist. Because you see this matrix is determinant.
Sir,
Yes,
sir, in this matrix representation, won't we take the heat flow?
heat flow we have taken Q dot divided by T, that is
Uh,
S dot.
So, but R inverse is a function of T, and the subject matrix, which is T1,
Yes,
T2,
yes, it can be a function of T. It can be a function of nonlinear function. It can be any nonlinear function. Okay. So nonlinear function, you can have square root, why not this? Alright. So you write whatever way, okay, it doesn't matter, you might write in straightforward way also, okay, in terms of equation. What it says is, you can find given two temperatures, you can find entropy flow rates, but given entropy flow rates, you cannot find the temperature. For example, okay, these temperatures are absolute temperatures, remember, alright? Okay. For example, let's say pipe is given, certain pipe is given, and you have all data. Okay, let's say your coefficient of discharge, area, all those things are known. Okay, and you are giving flow rate. You are measuring flow rate. With that flow rate, you can find out what is the pressure difference, but you cannot find out what are the absolute values of pressures. You can only find pressure difference. Likewise, here you can find out what is delta T, but you cannot find the values of T1 and T2 themselves. Alright? Okay. So, in this case, okay, this has happened because we have used, instead of Q dot, S dot as a variable. If we had, suppose we had somehow or other, by mistake, if we are modeled it like this, let's say R is 1 by lambda, here is effort is delta T, so let's say Q dot. Okay? So what we have? Flow is equal to E by R. So we get everything correct. But this is not power. Not power. So there is the problem, because effort into flow has to be power. If you have to use Q dot, this doesn't work out. Okay. So simple formulation doesn't work out. You have to move to entropy and you have to write it in terms of this. So, okay, at an advanced level, you can use some kind of scaling. We know this is a scaled model. We can use some kind of scaling and continue to use Q dot as a flow variable. We will use Q dot as a flow variable. After solution, we will again initially do a scaling and then make a descaling and come back to the solution, actual solution. So it's possible, but for your course, we will be always using entropy flow rate as the flow variable. We will always stick to it that effort into flow is power. Alright? So this is again some kind of a model. Now this has become vector. So because it has become vector, right, so you have to write the model somewhat like this. It will be R, whatever this matrix, and here effort E1, E2, and flow, that is a vector. H1 dot, H2 dot, transpose. We have to take a transpose because E bar dot F bar we have to take. So if you do not take transpose, it will not work out. P1, P2, that R, whatever R will come, okay, that is the effort. That will be our power, scalar. So this way we can represent it as a single thing, or we can write it slightly differently, or the same model can be written as something like this: R P1 1 dot P2 2 dot. Here this R is no more single port. Right? It is a two-port element. This is a matrix or field element. So those of you who will be doing some kind of course in finite element and other things, you will always say there is a mass matrix, there is a stiffness matrix, some damping matrix. So these are all matrices. Yes, then gyroscopic matrix and so on. So this becomes matrices means, all matrices means these are fields. Or matrices. Okay, so here also you can use a matrix and you can make a model like this. It's possible. Here also it is a matrix. This is also a matrix. As a function of effort, you can write flows as well. So there are many kinds of resistances. Okay, there is no end to it. Resistances are omnipresent. So I will not go into details of further resistances. Let us move into junctions, which are the most confusing things.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, there where you have written scalar power, that is coming out to be zero, right? E bar dot F bar.
No, that's why that will be zero.
That will be T1 S1 dot plus T2 S2 dot. That is Q dot minus Q dot 0.
Sorry.
Yeah, the matrix multiplication E bar dot F bar equal to matrix T1 T2 into S1 dot S2 dot.
Yes. That is for the, I have written it for that element, for that particular element. This one, this element, this one element. Okay, if it has no heat storage, it will become zero. Okay.
Okay.
If in some heat capacity, then we will get some data. Right now, we are assuming that it's pure resistance. So please be very attentive here, because this is where all confusion comes. Constraints. So we have two counts of constraints. One is one junction, where those are equal. We have zero junction, where efforts are equal. So I will take example of one junction. So some arbitrary one junction I will draw, and in this I put some bonds with power in convention, some bonds, arbitrary bonds with power out. So this is my coordinate system. I cannot say which one will have power in, which one will have power out. It is as per your convenience. Like if you draw a thing here, you can write this is this way, this is this way, maybe something comes this way. So in a circuit, you can draw like this. These are your assumptions: I1, I2, I3, I4. And when you solve this circuit, you will get maybe something comes negative, something comes this way, as it is shown. So you don't know. You have to do your coordinate system arbitrarily. Likewise, here also the coordinate system is arbitrarily chosen. So these things, I will name these bonds by some names. Let's call this one bond number 1 with effort variable denoted as E1, flow variable as F1. Let this effort variable be E2, flow be F2. Let this be E3, this be F3, this is E4, here F4. So 4 bonds, it could be many. It could be 10, 20, doesn't matter. N number of bonds are there. So now, what we know is definition of this junction. That is called strong law of one junction. What do we have here? Flows are equal. So I will write F1 equal to F2 equal to F3 equal to F4. So that is my strong law of the one junction. Very simple. Okay. That all flows are same. Now note that these flows are same doesn't mean they are same kind of physical flows. Okay? Like something might be a velocity, something might be a rate of deformation, something might be a current, something might be a charge carrying, or some kind of electrochemical reaction generated charge rate. So that doesn't mean it's the same physical phenomena. But by magnitude, the flow variables are same. That's what it means by equality of flows. So that is strong law of one junction. Now I will make a very important statement. Please note it. That a constant, any constant, does not create, store, or dissipate energy or power. This is a fundamental statement that a constant by itself doesn't generate power, doesn't throw away power, doesn't store power. Right? For example, a source can create power, a resistance can dissipate power, a negative resistance can import power, it can create. Likewise, source usually creates, source can also act as a sink and draw power from the system, that is possible. So source and resistance both can create and dissipate power. The mass-like element, inertia-like elements, they can store kinetic energy. The compliance-like elements, they can store potential energy. But a constant is none of these. Constant will neither create power, nor store it, nor dissipate it. That means, if there is a constant, it must also satisfy the condition of energy balance. Alright? For example, if you have a joint at a pipe, whatever inflow goes outflow, pressure is constant at that point. Similarly, at an electrical joint where you have, let's say, some number of input currents and output currents are branching out, you cannot have a capacitance or inductance model there at that joint itself, at that point itself. So that point will neither store or dissipate or generate energy. Alright? So that is a constraint. So if we assume this definition of a constraint, then for this one junction, I will write down the power balancing equation. Alright? So this is what the relation comes. We have for this one junction, this one is giving power. Look at this. E1, F1, power direction is this way. This gives power. E2, F2 gives power. E3, F3 takes away power because its power direction is away from one junction. E4, F4, its power direction is away from one junction. So these are taking away powers. So two of them are giving power, two of them are taking away power. So what do we write? We write E1, F1 minus E2, F2 is plus, E3, F3 going out, and E4, F4 is going out. Equal to 0. That is power balance. And as we know from definition that flows are same and they are generically same, even if they are non-zero. So, whether they are zero or non-zero, they are same. So we can always eliminate all these common F1, F2, F3, and F4. So what we get is E1 plus E2 minus E3 minus E4 equal to 0. This one is called weak or corollary law. That is, this is derived from power balance. Alright? Strong law is the definition. Strong law is the definition of the junction. This weak law is derived from the relation. Weak law is derived. Alright? This is like Kirchhoff's current and voltage laws.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, if it's akin to Kirchhoff's law, so why isn't F1 plus F2 minus F3 minus F4 0? Like it talks about the
But-
flow, right?
That will come, that is another one. That will be at zero junction. Okay. Right. This is flows are same. What I have drawn here, this is not flows are same. This is for different flows. I1, I2, I3, I4 are different. Alright?
So,
Okay.
so flow are different, but if you see that as a node equivalent to current, so it should be F1 plus F2 minus
Okay.
F3 minus F4.
That will be zero junction. Okay. Right now this is something like a parallel junction. This one. What we are drawing here is something like this. You have, let's say something I1, then you have something I2, then you have something I3. Let's say I1, I2, I3. So all these are same. I1, I2, I3 are same. They are same. What is potential difference between these to this? That is every delta B sum. So total delta B is delta B in R plus delta B in, let's say that inductor plus delta B in that capacitor. Okay? That is delta B, total delta B. So I can write delta B minus delta BR minus delta BI minus delta BC is equal to 0. Okay? So let this be a source. Let this be a voltage source. So for this, I can write B minus all these delta B's in this delta B is equal to 0. Alright? So this is basically what I am representing here is a series thing. Alright? This is not a series thing. This is some kind of a parallel connection will come here. Alright? Parallel branch. So this is one law. I will derive the other one, which is what you are saying. So, okay, what we have here is those are equal, and some kind of sign sum of efforts is 0. So at one junction, those are equal, and sign sum of efforts is 0. So one junction is used will be used with sign sum of efforts. So used for force balance. In mechanical systems, it will be used for force balance equation. So for example, if you have like this, let's like this. So what do we have here? Sum of forces is 0. Let's sum of forces is 0. So we have mx double dot plus kx plus rx dot equal to 0 or ft maybe. Okay, you can have ft also. If you have ft equal to ft. So this is a kind of force balance equation. Okay, so what do we get from here? ft minus mx double dot minus kx minus rx dot is equal to 0. So you see here, one junction, source of effort is to ft. That is plus. This is the plus term. The plus term. Then all others are minus. I, mass, C, string, R, jump. So that's a kind of force balance. What we again know that all these three, what from corollary we know velocity of mass, Ft, are same as rate of deformation of K and R. So if you model that as one junction, because velocities are same, velocity and rate of deformations are same, that also simultaneously says that this is equivalent to this. These two are equivalent. If this happens, the other one will happen. That's the corollary law. Okay? So wherever you write rows are equal, that also implies sum of efforts with some plus minus sign will be 0. That is what is an one junction. So what you understand is this spring mass damper system is one junction, series electrical circuit is one junction. The exact opposite is zero junction. Zero junction is nothing great, it's just opposite. Zero junction. Some zero junction arbitrary I have chosen. Something goes in. Let's say this one is out, something out, something else in. Let's type things, let me. So you have, let's say, E1, F1, E2, this is out, F2, E3, F3, E4, F4, E5, F5. So this zero junction, by definition, is strong law. So, by definition, what we have is all efforts are same. So, E1, E2, E3, E2, E5. Then, from power balance, we will derive the corollary or Wick law. What we will write here? E1 F1 is in power, E2 F2 is out, minus. Then you have E3 F3 out. E4 F4 into the junction. And E5 F5 is out. We use the already known information, efforts are same, cross those efforts, and we get a relation of flows. F1 minus F2 minus F3 plus F4 minus F5 equal to 0. Okay? So what here we have is exactly opposite of one junction. In one junction, flows were same, and then sum of the forces was 0. At 0 junction, efforts are same, sum of the flows is 0. Just opposite. So if you remember one of the junction, the other is implied. In place of F, you substitute E. In place of E, you substitute F. The relations are straightforward. So you just have to remember rules for one of the junctions. So one junction and 0 junction are exactly opposite. So what do we know from this? We can make a very interesting observation that at 0 junction, efforts are equal and sine sum of flows is 0. This implies a very important thing, that sine sum of flows, that means it can do kinematics. So all kinematic relations, very important for our mechanical engineering. All kinematic relations will be modeled by 0 junction. So this is the key. As long as you get a relation, kinematic relation, you have to model it by 0 junction. We cannot actually write any kind of kinematic relation, good kinematic relation, because we have not yet introduced some. We'll see, most of the times your mechanical systems models will be developed from the kinematic relations only. You do not have to write force balance equations, because here the power is conserved. So somehow or other, if you write the kinematic relations correctly, automatically the dynamics will be correct. If flow balance is correct, the force balance will also be correct. If one of them is wrong, the other one is automatically wrong. Alright? So that comes from the power balance property of the junctions. So you have to somehow or other write correct kinematic relations, which is very easy. You need not worry about it. So before we go to kinematic relations and create some models, simple models, how to make kinematic relations, I will introduce some simple two more elements. Those are the ones which will be required for kinematic relations. So two constants we have already discussed. We have 1 and 0 junctions. Are multi-port constants because you can connect any number of bonds to these constants. So these are multi-port constants. Now we will introduce two-port constants. Which are equally transducers basically they are transducers. So one of the transducers is called a transformer element. TF. This is a two-port element. As the name suggests, it will be TF, which will be modeled like this. One side power input, other side output. One side power in, other side out. Okay? So you cannot have power going out on both sides. You cannot have power coming in from outside, from both sides. So one side will be in, other side will be out. That means you cannot have PF like this will be wrong, or you cannot have PF like this will be also wrong. So you have to have this or this. Both of these are fine. One side in, one side out. So this transformer has certain well-known relationships. It has two bonds. So let's call one side E1 F1, other side E2 F2. Here I will put a variable, let's call it mu, and an arrow here. And I will write this mu is transformer modulus or scaling factor. And this is transformer orientation. Okay? So we are with a transformer, which is a transducer, we have two sides, two bonds. There is a scaling factor and there is a direction of scaling. So this transformer orientation means it is direction of scaling. That is direction of scaling. Of scaling. So for this, in this given condition, we will write down, mark carefully, we will write down F2 is equal to mu times F1. Okay? F2 is mu times F1. F1 gets multiplied with mu is F2. That's what it means. Okay? If the arrow were opposite direction, then it will be F1 is equal to mu times F2. So this has to be carefully noted. What is this orientation means? I will redo it. Okay? For example, if I have P1 F1, PF mu like this, then I will write F1 is equal to mu times F2. Okay? So this orientation, the arrow above that mu, that gives the direction in which velocities or flows are scaled. And the scaling factor is specified by this modulus mu. So if this is the relation, with that we get some corollary relations. So I will write down the corollary relations here. So both the cases I take. This is a constant again. And here is TF. E1, F1, E2, F2, E1, F1, E2, F2, one direction like this, other direction like this. And let's say we put a separator here. So what do we get here? F2 is mu F1. What do we get here? We get F1 is equal to mu F2. Then we also write that no power loss or stored in constant. So if no power is stored, created or lost in the constant, then E1 F1 must be equal to E2 F2. So if we put that relation, then we get that what we already have is F2 is equal to mu F1. We'll now have E2 is equal to 1 by mu E1. So that if you multiply this side E2 F2, you will get equal to E1 F1. So if this kind of scaling takes place, so we can write this, or E1 is equal to mu E2. So that's one way of writing the thing. Alright? So this comes from power balance. Likewise, here from power balance, this has to give E1 must be equal to 1 by mu E2. Or we can conversely write F1 is equal to mu F2 E2 is equal to mu E1. Cross multiply. Cross multiply. You get E1 F1 equal to E2 F2. So one important point to note here, note flow is scaled by mu in direction flow is scaled by mu in direction given by arrow, whereas effort is scaled in opposite direction. Yes, somebody wants to speak? Speak, please. So this is important. Flow is scaled in, if flow is increased, then effort must decrease. Alright? So that product of effort and flow in the input side is same as product of effort and flow on the output side. So if one is scaled up, other should be scaled down. That means if F2 is mu times F1, that means let's say mu is some quantity, F2 is mu times F1, then E1 will be mu times E2. So flow will be scaled in one way, effort will be scaled in opposite way. That's what is meant by this power conserving property of this transformer. And this is a very, very useful element. It is a transducer element. We have lots and lots of examples of this element. Let's see some of the transducer elements. Basic transformer. First thing, of course, it means it is transformer. Electrical transformer. Okay. So what do we have? Some flow. Let's write it. Transformer. One side is primary side. Let's say voltage primary. This is effort. Flow is current. Flow is current in primary side. This side effort is voltage in secondary side. Flow is current in secondary side. Okay. So what do we have here? NP by NS. Okay. So IP into NP is by Ampere's law. Just generated. That is the magnetic MMF generated. Okay. And then IPNP divided by NS becomes the secondary side current. Okay. So you have secondary side current is NP by NS times IP. That's straightforward. Here this is ideal transformer. I have not assumed any core losses. So this is in primary side, number of turns in the secondary side. Let's take a lever. Some kind of a lever. Let's say this side force F1, displacement or velocity is x1 dot. This side force is F2, displacement velocity is x2 dot. Let this distance be a, this distance be b. Okay, so we have a lever ratio a by b or b by a, whatever way you decide. Okay. Now, okay, you can write this model whatever way you like. Let's write it like this. You can put this side x1 dot or x2 dot, whatever you like. Let me put f1 on side 1, f1 flow is x1 dot. Yes, somebody wants to speak? Hello? Yes. Oh, so then mute it, mute it. Oh, that, okay. Sai Kumar, please mute yourself. Oh, he has done it. They have done accidentally. It's F2 and flow is x2 dot. Now we have simple kinematic relation here that let's say this angle is some theta. So you have theta is x1 by b, that is equal to minus of x2 by a. So you have x2 dot equal to minus a by b 1 dot. Okay. So what we get here modulus is minus a by b. Now you will ask me, where is transducer? Alright? Where is transducer? Transducer means change in energy domain. That is basic property of transducer. Actually, this lever is working because we are converting mechanical translation to a mechanical rotation, and this mechanical rotation is again converted to mechanical translation. So there is a change of energy domain. It's done twice. There is a twice change of energy domain from mechanical translation to rotation, again rotation to translation. Likewise, in this transformer, there is a change of energy domain. First energy domain change is from electrical to magnetic domain, that is the core, and then from the magnetic domain on the to again the electrical domain. So there is a hidden transduction involved inside. That's why, although this looks like a single energy domain to single energy domain transformation, in between there is a change of energy domain involved. So that's why these are also transducers. Some simple two more examples. Maybe with change in energy domain. Let's say we have a piston. Let me come back to the previous things. So note that here for this electrical thing, we have IS is equal to the transformer modulus is mu times IP, and Dp is equal to mu times S. Okay, it's opposite side. If current is scaled in from IP side to IS side, then the voltage is scaled from secondary side to primary side. Likewise, here you have H2 dot is equal to minus A by B X1 dot. Obviously, it also says that F1 is minus A by B F2. So that when you cross multiply F2 into X2 dot times minus A by B is equal to F1 into X1 dot times minus A by B minus A by B cancels out. You get F1 X1 dot is equal to F2 X2 dot. So both the effort and flow simultaneously transform. So this one, let's say you have a velocity here X dot, force here F. Here the effort variable is pressure and flow variable is bounding flow rate. So what we get, V dot is cross-sectional area A times X dot. This area is A. A is eastern area. What else we get? We also get F is equal to A times E. So when you multiply, PB dot is equal to Fx dot. So this is multiply, this is a transformer. This side F, X dot, this side E, B dot, the transformation is area. So this is a clear transducer. This is mechanical, like translation. That side is hydraulic. So this is a transformer. Likewise, many transformers are there. Yes, any question? I will just speak in a minute. Now, let him wait for a minute. So if you have omega R, there is pure rolling. Let's say, then you have transformer. This side is torque, omega. The transformer ratio is R. This side you have force and velocity. So what we have? We have V is equal to omega R and you have torque is equal to F into R. F here is friction force. F here is the, if you are rotating like this, then friction force is like this is F. Okay? So both things occur simultaneously. Rack and pinion. As you progress, some rack pinion, gears, pulley, and all these things are simply transformers. Okay? So I will stop here today. You can ask your questions, please. Transducer, okay, that there are two transducers. One is a transformer. The auto transducer, I will come to it. It's called a gyrator. Okay. So that is in next class. I will show you how to model. I will show you only DC drag. All right. AC motor modeling is slightly complicated because you have to do a lot of transformations, something called spark transformation, DC frame transformation, and so on. So we are not going to do AC motors. We will do only DC motors. I will show it in next class. Okay.